The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter was a gold mine for independent contractors like Orion Wade. His ship, the Dawnbreaker, was one of many that prowled these rocks, extracting precious metals and rare minerals that fueled Earth's expanding colonies. Orion's weathered face reflected the harsh life of a space miner, deep lines around his eyes, a scar running across his left cheek, and a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow. "Captain, I'm picking up something weird on the sensors," called Jasmine, his navigation officer. Her dark eyes narrowed at the display. "Not asteroid composition. Definitely artificial." Orion leaned over her console, studying the readings. "Trajectory? It's drifting. No propulsion. Wait, there's a faint distress beacon. Not one of ours." The bridge crew exchanged glances. First contact had happened 30 years ago, opening Earth to a vast galactic community. Most encounters were peaceful, if tense. The galaxy was full of ancient civilizations that viewed humanity as upstarts. "Salvage rights apply," grunted Dominic, chief engineer. "Could be valuable tech. Could be trouble," countered Valentina, security chief and former Earth Defense Force Marine. Her hand rested casually near her sidearm. Orion made his decision. "Bring us alongside. Val, prep a boarding team. Dom, ready the tractor beam." The object came into view as they approached, sleek and crystalline, roughly the size of a small shuttle. Its hull bore scorch marks and impact damage. Definitely not human design. "It's Vesperian," Valentina said quietly. "Royal markings." The Vesperians were an ancient, advanced species known for their crystalline technology and rigid caste system. They rarely ventured into human space, considering Earth's solar system a backwater. The boarding team returned 40 minutes later, carrying something between them. Not something, someone. A slender figure wrapped in shimmering damaged robes. Her skin was pale blue, almost translucent, with a faint pattern of luminescence beneath. Long, silvery hair floated around her face as they brought her into the ship's artificial gravity. She was the only one aboard, Valentina reported. Some kind of escape pod. Ship's medical AI identifies her as Vesperian nobility, based on biochemical markers. The alien woman's eyes suddenly fluttered open, iridescent and multifaceted like gemstones. She spoke, her voice melodic but strained, the universal translator in Orion's earpiece converting her words. "Please, ... They will come for me. They must not find me." Orion knelt beside her. "Who's coming? What happened to your ship?" "Betrayal," she whispered. "My cousin, Sovereign Protector Julon. Attempted assassination. The royal vessel ... sabotaged." The crew exchanged alarmed glances. Interfering in alien royal politics was dangerous territory. "I am Thalassa, Crown Princess of the Vesperian Eternal Empire," she continued, struggling to sit up. "If I die, billions will suffer under Julin's rule. He will align with the Scourge Dominion." The mention of the Scourge sent a chill through the room. The militant species was known for subjugating planets and strip mining them for resources. Before Orion could respond, warning klaxons blared throughout the ship, multiple ships dropping out of FTL. Jasmine shouted from the bridge. "Vesperian cruisers, 5 of them. They're hailing us and powering weapons." "They found me," Thalassa whispered, her luminescence dimming with fear. Orion's mind raced. His mining vessel couldn't outrun or outfight Vesperian warships. But something in the princess's desperate eyes made his decision for him. "Jasmine, plot a course through the densest part of the asteroid field. Dom, I need everything the engines can give us." He turned to Valentina. "Get our guest to medical. And prepare all defensive systems." The ship lurched as Dominic diverted power to the engines. On the view screen, the sleek, predatory forms of Vesperian cruisers grew larger. "Human vessel," came a cold voice over the comms. "You have recovered property of the Vesperian Empire. Surrender it immediately, or be destroyed." Orion's jaw tightened. Property. That's not how humans see people, even alien royalty. He cut the communication and turned to his crew. We're outgunned and outnumbered. But we have one advantage. They want the princess alive. They'll have to be careful. And we know these asteroids better than anyone. The Dawnbreaker accelerated toward the dense cluster of tumbling rocks ahead. Behind them, the Vesperian ships followed, energy weapons charging. Hold on, Orion muttered, gripping the edge of the console. This is going to get rough. In the medical bay, Thalassa watched through a porthole as the stars began to blur with their acceleration. For the first time in her life, her fate rested in the hands of beings her people considered primitives. Yet, in the captain's determined expression, she had seen something her own kind often lacked: fierce compassion. Untainted by political calculation, the Dawnbreaker plunged into the asteroid field. With hunters close behind and an uncertain future ahead, others' ambitions. Free to forge their own destiny among the stars, the Dawnbreaker shuddered as another energy blast grazed its stern shields. Inside the medical bay, Thalassa gripped the edges of the examination table, her crystalline nails leaving shallow grooves in the metal. Your vessel cannot withstand their firepower, she stated, watching Dr. Eleanor Reyes work on her injured shoulder. You'd be surprised what this old girl can handle, Eleanor replied, applying a regenerative patch to the princess's translucent skin. Orion's pulled us through worse. Over the ship's intercom, Dominic's voice crackled. Captain, I've rerouted power from non-essential systems. We've got maybe 20 minutes at this burn rate before the engines overheat. On the bridge, Orion navigated through the asteroid field with practiced precision. Each massive rock offered momentary cover from the pursuing Vesperian cruisers. They're splitting up, Jasmine warned. Trying to flank us? Valentina stood at the tactical station, her expression grim. Our shields won't take another direct hit, and we're running out of asteroids large enough for cover. Orion studied the sensor display, a plan forming. See that cluster ahead? The one with the high metallic content? Jasmine nodded. It'll mess with their sensors, but ours too, exactly. Dom, prepare to vent plasma from the starboard nacelles on my mark. Val, load the mining charges. Understanding dawned on Valentina's face. Mining charges aren't weapons, Captain. They are today, Orion replied grimly. The Dawnbreaker accelerated toward the dense metallic asteroid cluster. As they entered the sensor-disrupting field, Orion gave the command, now. Dominic vented superheated plasma from the engines, while Valentina launched 3 mining charges. The explosion sent thousands of metallic fragments hurtling in all directions. On the pursuing ship's sensors, it would appear as if the Dawnbreaker had been destroyed. Kill all non-essential power, Orion ordered. Drift with the debris. In the darkness of the bridge, illuminated only by emergency lighting, the crew held their breath. On the view screen, the Vesperian cruisers slowed. Scanning the debris field, they're buying it, Jasmine whispered. After an agonizing 10 minutes, the Vesperian ships began to disperse. Continuing their search pattern in different directions, they'll realize we're not dead soon enough, Orion said. We need somewhere to go. Somewhere they won't follow easily. Europa Station, Valentina suggested. It's under Earth jurisdiction. They'd risk diplomatic incidents if they pursued us there. Orion nodded. Set course, minimal power, until we're clear of the field. In the medical bay, Thalassa had watched through the porthole as the pursuing ships dispersed. Clever, she murmured. Using mining equipment as a defensive tactic, Eleanor smiled. Humans are good at improvising. How's the shoulder? Healing, Thalassa replied, flexing her arm. Your medical technology is surprisingly effective for its simplicity. Later, Orion visited the medical bay to check on their guest. He found her standing, examining the star charts on the medical display. Europa Station will only delay Julan, she said without turning. He has agents everywhere. It buys us time, Orion replied. Time to contact Earth's authorities. Get you proper protection. Thalassa turned to face him, her luminescence pulsing softly. Why risk your ship and crew for me? You owe me nothing. Orion crossed his arms. Is that how Vesperians think? Always calculating debts and obligations? Our empire has survived for millennia through careful political balance, she replied. Personal risk without strategic advantage is uncommon among my people. Well, it's common enough among mine, Orion said, especially when someone's in trouble. Thalassa studied him with her faceted eyes. My cousin believes humans are dangerous because you're unpredictable, emotionally. I begin to see his point, though not his conclusion. And what do you believe? Her luminescence brightened slightly. I'm still deciding, but I am ... grateful. As the Dawnbreaker limped toward Europa Station, Thalassa shared what she knew of her cousin's coup. Julin had allied with hardline isolationists who opposed her plans to open more trade with younger species, including humans. Julin fears human innovation, she explained to the gathered crew. Your species accomplishes in decades what took others centuries. It threatens the established order, so he'd rather ally with the Scourge. Valentina asked incredulously. The Scourge are predictable in their brutality, Thalassa replied. Humans are not. Too many ancient species, that makes you more dangerous. As Europa Station grew larger in the view screen, Jasmine detected a transmission being broadcast across multiple frequencies. It's a bounty notice, she said, her voice tight. For the capture of the Dawnbreaker and the return of stolen Vesperian property. Orion's expression hardened. Seems we've become popular. Prep for emergency docking. And someone find our guests some less conspicuous clothes. Europa Station hung against the backdrop of Jupiter's swirling clouds. A sprawling complex of habitat rings and docking spires. Once a remote research outpost, it had grown into a bustling frontier hub after first contact, home to humans and a growing number of alien residents. The Dawnbreaker. Secured emergency docking at an outer maintenance berth, away from the main traffic lanes. Orion led a small group through service corridors himself, Valentina, and Thalassa. Now dressed in standard mining coveralls, with a hood concealing her distinctive features. Station security will have received the bounty notice, Valentina warned. Not all of them can be trusted with credits like that floating around. We're not going to security, Orion replied. We're going to an old friend. They descended into the station's lower levels, where the pristine corridors gave way to a more lived-in environment, market stalls, repair shops, and establishments catering to spacers of all species. The air was thick with the scent of various cuisines and mechanical lubricants. Orion led them to a nondescript door marked only with a stylized wrench. Inside was a workshop cluttered with machinery parts and tools. A stocky woman with cybernetic arms looked up from her workbench, her eyes widening at the sight of them. Orion Wade, she said, wiping her hands on a rag. Last time you showed up unannounced. I ended up in a firefight with Jovian smugglers. Good to see you too, Fiona, Orion replied with a half-smile. We need to disappear for a while. Fiona's eyes flicked to Thalassa, narrowing slightly. Your new friend's biosignature is lighting up my security system like a solstice tree. Vesperian royalty, if I'm not mistaken. Thalassa lowered her hood, her luminescence dimmed to minimize her distinctive glow. You are well informed for a human mechanic. I wasn't always just a mechanic, Fiona replied cryptically. She sighed, securing the door behind them. There's a shielded room in the back. It'll mask her signature, but it's temporary at best. As they settled into the hidden room, Fiona brought them station news. The bounty on Thalassa had attracted attention from mercenaries and opportunists. Meanwhile, a Vesperian diplomatic vessel had docked, claiming to be searching for a kidnapped royal. They're spinning quite a story, Fiona said. Claiming humans abducted you for ransom, Julin moves quickly to control the narrative, Thalassa observed. He knows your authorities will hesitate to contradict official Vesperian statements. Orion paced the small room. We need to get word to Earth Defense Command. They need to hear your side before this escalates further. I have a secure comm channel, Fiona offered. But there's a complication. Station Director Holden is meeting with the Vesperian delegation tonight. He's ambitious, looking to make his mark in interspecies diplomacy. He might hand us over before Earth can intervene. Valentina concluded grimly. While they planned their next move, Thalassa explored the workshop, examining the human technology with curious eyes. She paused before a holodisplay showing the history of Europa. "Station, your people built this in orbit around a radiation-soaked moon. With technology that would be considered primitive by galactic standards," she mused, "and yet it thrives." "That's what humans do," Orion said, joining her. "We make do with what we have. We adapt." "My people have barely changed our ways in 10,000 years," she replied softly. "We perfect rather than innovate. It has made us... stagnant, I fear." Their conversation was interrupted by an alarm from Fiona's security system. "Station security is conducting sweeps," she warned. "They're using bioscanners calibrated for Vesperian signatures. They're getting closer to this section," Valentina reported. Checking the security feed, Thalassa straightened, her luminescence brightening with resolve. "I will not hide while others face danger on my behalf. Not anymore." Orion saw something change in her posture. The regal bearing she had suppressed was now fully evident. "What are you suggesting?" "I will address your Earth authorities directly," she declared. "Not as a fugitive, but as the rightful heir to the Vesperian throne. If my cousin wants a political battle, I shall give him one." Fiona looked skeptical. "The station's comms are monitored. You'll be detected the moment you try to broadcast. Then we shall use their expectations against them," Thalassa replied, a determined gleam in her faceted eyes. "Your human unpredictability has proven effective thus far. Perhaps it is time I learned from your example." As security forces moved closer to their hideout, Orion, Valentina, and Thalassa huddled with Fiona, formulating a bold plan that would either save them or doom them entirely. The princess who had once looked down on humans was now placing her faith in their ingenuity. While beyond the station walls, Vesperian warships gathered in the shadow of Jupiter. The station-wide announcement came without warning, interrupting broadcasts across all channels. Every screen on Europa Station suddenly displayed the same image: Princess Thalassa, standing tall in her full royal regalia attire. Fiona had ingeniously constructed from modified environmental, suit components, and salvaged materials. "People of Earth and citizens of Europa Station," she began, her melodic voice carrying a newfound strength. "I am Princess Thalassa of the Vesperian Eternal Empire. Contrary to claims made by the delegation on your station, I was not kidnapped. I was rescued by Captain Orion Wade and his crew after an assassination attempt orchestrated by my cousin, Yulin, in the station's diplomatic quarter." Station Director Holden watched the broadcast in shock. Standing beside the furious Vesperian delegation, "This transmission is unauthorized," he stammered. "We'll trace it in silence," hissed the Vesperian ambassador, Mentor Calix, his luminescence flaring with rage. "Your primitive security has already failed us." Meanwhile, Thalassa continued her address from a makeshift broadcasting. "Studio Fiona had assembled inside an abandoned maintenance hub. My cousin seeks to overthrow the peaceful succession and align our empire with the Scourge Dominion. If he succeeds, not only will my people suffer, but the delicate balance of power that maintains peace in this sector will collapse." She paused, her faceted eyes seeming to look directly at her viewers. "I seek asylum with Earth's authorities and request an emergency conference with your diplomatic corps." Valentina monitored security channels as Orion stood beside Thalassa, just out of the camera's view. "They're triangulating our position," she warned. "We have minutes at most." "Just finishing," Thalassa replied calmly, before addressing the camera again. "To those who believe humans are beneath notice, I have witnessed their resourcefulness, their compassion, and their determination. These qualities make them not a threat, but potentially our greatest allies. I formally invoke the right of royal sanctuary, an ancient Vesperian custom that predates even our written laws." As she concluded her broadcast, alarms blared throughout the station. Fiona's screens showed security teams converging on their location from multiple directions. "Time to move," Orion ordered. Helping dismantle the broadcasting equipment, the maintenance tunnel should, a deafening explosion rocked the entire section, sending them staggering. Emergency lighting kicked in as primary power failed. That wasn't station security, Fiona said grimly. Checking her sensors. Vesperian energy signatures. They're cutting through the hole. Through the breach came soldiers in crystalline armor, wielding weapons that hummed with contained energy. Valentina drew her sidearm, taking cover behind an equipment rack. Get the princess out, she shouted to Orion. I'll hold them off. But Thalassa stepped forward instead of retreating. No more running, she declared, picking up a fallen piece of metal conduit. No more hiding while others fight my battles. The firefight was chaotic and brutal. Valentina's military training and Fiona's knowledge of the environment gave them advantages. Against the technically superior Vesperian forces, Orion and Thalassa fought side by side, royal combat training surprisingly effective with even improvised weapons as they battled through the corridors. Station-wide alerts announced that multiple Vesperian vessels had begun aggressive maneuvers surrounding Europa Station. Civilian areas were being evacuated to central shelters. This is beyond a coup now, Thalassa said, between breaths, as they paused in a junction. Julin is using me as an excuse to test Earth's resolve. He believes your people will surrender rather than risk open conflict. Then he doesn't know humans very well, Orion replied grimly. They fought their way to a communications hub, where Fiona established contact with an incoming Earth Defense Force vessel, responding to the station's distress call. On the screens, they could see the Vesperian ships deploying fighters around the station. They're positioning for a full assault, Valentina observed. They'll claim they're conducting a rescue operation. Suddenly, the station shook violently as the first wave of Vesperian weapons struck its outer defenses. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut throughout the complex as atmosphere vented from damaged sections. This is madness, Orion said. They'll kill thousands of civilians. Thalassa's luminescence pulsed with a cold intensity. Not if I can help it. She pushed past Fiona to access the communication array directly. I need to broadcast on all Vesperian military frequencies. As another blast rocked the station, Thalassa stood before the transmitter, her voice carrying the full weight of her royal authority. This is Crown Princess Thalassa, to all Vesperian vessels. By the ancient code, I invoke the sovereign's command of cessation. Any who continue this attack are guilty of treason against the eternal throne itself. For a moment, the bombardment paused. Then, a new voice responded, cold and mocking. How unfortunate that the princess perished in the human attack that provoked our justified response, came Julin's voice. History will remember your final moments as a tragic example of human barbarism. The assault intensified, battering the station's failing shields. In that moment of crisis, humans and aliens throughout the station rallied together. Engineers jury-rigged defensive systems. Medical teams from a dozen species treated the wounded, and in the communications hub, Orion Wade made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. If we can't stop them with authority, he said, we'll stop them with innovation. The Dawnbreaker's mining crew had joined forces with station engineers to implement Orion's desperate plan. They worked feverishly in the main hangar bay, converting mining equipment into makeshift defensive systems, while Europa Station's shields continued to deteriorate. Under the Vesperian assault, this is either brilliant or suicidal, Dominic muttered as he reconfigured the asteroid fragmenting lasers from their ship. Probably both. Jasmine coordinated with station personnel, routing power to their improvised weapons. The Earth Defense Force is still 20 minutes out. We need to hold until then. Outside, the Vesperian fleet had arranged itself in a classic attack formation, a technique unchanged for millennia, due to its supposed perfection. Their ships maintained precise distances from each other, their crystalline hulls gleaming in Jupiter's reflected light. Their formations are too perfect, too predictable, Orion explained to the gathered defenders. That's their weakness. Thalassa stood among them, no longer just a royal fugitive, but a leader in her own right. My people rely on established patterns. We value consistency above adaptation. And humans, Valentina added with a grim smile, excel at breaking patterns. When the modified mining equipment was ready, Ryan gave the order. The hangar bay doors opened, and dozens of retrofitted mining drones swarmed out into space. Each carried a fraction of the Dawnbreaker's specialized equipment. Sonic fracturing devices designed to break apart asteroids along natural fault lines. Target their formation nodes, Orion commanded. Disrupt their synchronized attack patterns. The drones were small and fast, difficult for the large Vesperian weapons to track. They attached themselves to key vessels, activating their sonic fracturing systems at precisely calibrated frequencies. On the command ship, Julian watched in disbelief as hairline fractures began to appear across his fleet's crystalline hulls. The Vesperian ship's greatest strength, their crystalline composition, became their vulnerability. The fracturing devices didn't cause catastrophic damage, but they disrupted the precise harmonics that allowed the ships to coordinate their attacks. "Impossible," he hissed. "Their primitive technology cannot." His words were cut short as the ship's systems fluctuated, the crystal matrices that powered their advanced technology developing microscopic imperfections that compounded. With each passing second, back on the station, Thalassa watched the Vesperian fleet's perfectly choreographed assault degenerate into disarray. "They've never encountered this approach," she said softly. "They have no protocol for it." As the Vesperian formation broke, Earth Defense Force vessels dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Jupiter system, not an overwhelming force, but enough to tip the already unbalanced scales. Gielan, facing the failure of his attack and the arrival of Earth's reinforcements, was forced to withdraw his damaged fleet, but not before sending one final, spiteful transmission to the station. "This humiliation will not be forgotten, cousin. You have chosen humans over your own kind. History will judge you harshly." Thalassa's response was measured but firm. "History is written by those who survive, cousin. And survival requires adaptation, a lesson humans have graciously taught me." In the aftermath, Europa Station began repairs. The damage was extensive, but the casualties had been remarkably few thanks to the quick implementation of emergency protocols. In the station's central conference chamber, Princess Thalassa met with Earth's diplomatic representatives and the station leadership. "What you've witnessed today," she told them, "is merely the beginning. My cousin will return with greater forces unless we establish a new balance of power." Station Director Holden, chastened by the day's events, nodded grimly. "What do you propose, Your Highness?" Thalassa turned to Orion, who stood respectfully at the edge of the gathering. "Captain Wade demonstrated that human ingenuity, combined with Vesperian technology, creates possibilities neither of our species could achieve alone." She placed a crystalline data node on the conference table. "This contains technical specifications for Vesperian shield harmonics, propulsion systems, and communication networks, information never before shared with younger species. I offer it as the foundation of a formal alliance between the Vesperian throne and Earth." The diplomats murmured in shock. Such an alliance would dramatically shift the balance of power in the sector. "My cousin believes humans are dangerous because you evolve and adapt quickly," Thalassa continued. "He is correct. But where he sees a threat, I see hope for my people, who have grown too rigid to certain of our own superiority." Later, as the formal discussions continued, Thalassa found Orion on an observation deck, watching repair drones work on the station's damaged exterior. "Your crew has been granted commendations by your government," she said, joining him at the viewport. "And mining rights to 3 asteroid belts in Vesperian territory?" Orion smiled slightly. "Not bad for a routine mining expedition turned interstellar incident. Is that how you see it?" she asked, her luminescence shifting to softer hues in the dim light. "Just an incident?" "I see it as a beginning," he replied. "Of what? I'm not entirely sure yet." Thalassa's faceted eyes reflected the stars beyond the viewport. "My people measure time in millennia, Captain Wade. We see the grand patterns of history unfolding slowly across the cosmos. And humans. You live briefly but brilliantly," she said. "You taught me that sometimes history can change course in a single day, through the actions of a single ship and its captain." As they stood together watching Jupiter's swirling storms, news of the alliance between humanity and the Vesperian heir spread throughout known space. On countless worlds, Species both ancient and young considered the implications of this unexpected partnership. The Scourge Dominion adjusted their expansion plans. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. And aboard distant vessels, other humans heard the story of the mining ship captain who befriended a princess and changed the course of galactic politics. In the vastness of space, a new chapter had begun, one where humanity's place among the stars would never again be dismissed as insignificant. For in their brief, brilliant lives, humans had proven they could accomplish what ancient races thought impossible. They could adapt, innovate, and forge connections that transcended the cold calculations of galactic politics. And it had all started with a simple human choice to rescue a stranger in need, regardless of the risk or reward.